Hey there, this is Matthew Jennings, and in this episode of Peachjar Extra Credit, I am with a very special guest out here at the WASPRA conference. We are going to talk about starting a new job in a new district, onboarding, first few weeks, 30, 60, 90 days. What does that look like? So stick around. Hey there, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me today on this. I'm really excited to talk about what I think is going to be a little bit of a road trip through a myriad of different topics that all centered around the fact that you moved very far away from home to a whole different state, started in a whole new community, whole new district, and kind of what that process looked like and how you were able to successfully navigate that. But before we do that, just introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got here.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, I'm Sarah Foy, and I work for Oak Harbor Public Schools in Washington, which is on Whidbey Island. If you haven't been there, Oak Harbor is beautiful. It's a little oasis about 50 miles west of Seattle, so definitely check it out if you're ever in Washington. It's very lovely. But prior to that, I was, as Matthew referenced, in California, in the Bay Area, in San Jose to be specific, and I had worked in school PR there for a few years before I was in journalism and television news prior to that. But it was definitely a 180 type of experience to jump from California, the Bay Area, San Jose, which is a very massive town, totally different demographics than what I'm kind of experiencing now in Oak Harbor. But it has been a great change for my life, and we have loved moving here and kind of, getting away from the grind of such a big city. But it definitely was a learning curve. So happy to share more about what that was for me and kind of I overcome a lot of those things.
Which is why I really wanted to talk to you about this, because I think it's a very unique situation where you really took a giant leap of faith, moved from California to a whole different state here in Washington. I can't blame you. It's absolutely gorgeous.
You can see from behind us. It's pretty amazing.
We are here at the WASPRA conference, which is the Washington chapter of the School Public Relations Association, and their conference here is in Leavenworth, Washington, a little Bavarian community.
Yes.
Very gorgeous.
It's beautiful. And the weather's been amazing since we've been here. So
the weather has been nice.
Yes.
So I don't blame you at all for wanting to make that move. And that's what I wanted to talk through, kind of how you did that, how you were able to accomplish that move, like the job search, and then what it really looked like to go through that onboarding process. Because I think there's a lot of things you probably went through that would apply to anyone that's even just moving districts, a school district over.
Yeah, right.
So let's start with that job search. Tell me a little bit about how that worked.
Yeah, so, both me and my husband both lived in California for all of our lives, and we were just at a point where we were like, we wanted a change, and we didn't really know what to expect, and so I, did some job searching up in Washington just to kind of see what was out there. Ended up applying to Oak Harbor Public Schools, not really expecting much, and it was just kind of a light bulb moment where, I met the superintendent, Michelle Casaibula, who is an amazing superintendent, and just the superintendent that any communication person would just love to work for. And it was kind of just a click and moment that when I was doing the interview that it just felt right. And I knew that it was the right time for us to kind of take that leap and go where we kind of wanted to go. It was the right point in our life and the right career at the time.
Followed your heart. That's amazing. So then you get to Washington. Now, if I understand this right, you and your superintendent actually started relatively...
Same day.
Same day?
Same day. We both started July 2022.
Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we were the only people in the office. So it was like this moment where we could just really learn about each other and how we operated. And it was just us kind of, because everyone was at summer vacation at the time. And so it was really a way for us to just dive in together as two new people in the district.
A lot of really great opportunities come out of something like that. So talk to me through that plan, those initial weeks, those initial months. How did you kind of figure out how you fit into this new community? It's a pretty big change from San Jose to a rural community like where you're at now in Oak Harbor.
Yes.
So talk to me about that transition plan and what are some of the steps you took to figure out what was needed and how you could best support the community that you served.
Yeah. So like I said, I was in San Jose prior to going to Oak Harbor, which is literally a 180 experience, right? San Jose is a very large city, different demographics, and then going to Oak Harbor, which is a very rural town, it has a military base, and it's just a completely different type of, audiences and students and families that I was serving. And so I really had to really start from scratch. Like, obviously I had a lot of the skills and knowledge from prior experience, but I really needed to dive in and with the community and find out what were their pain points, what are some things that we could improve and build upon. And again, I was fortunate that my superintendent started at the same time, because we were able to kind of do the entry planning together, meeting with different community groups, different stakeholders, different influencers that were in the community to kind of learn more about how we can best serve in our roles.
That's really cool. And that is such a unique opportunity to be able to get out and both you and your superintendent introduce yourselves to the community. Talk to me about some of the groups you met with then. I imagine things like your local real estate agents, Lions Club, Rotaries. Talk to me about that experience and kind of what that plan was.
Yeah, so, we started in summer, so a lot of people were in town, but we were able to kind of figure out who were, the main players in our community. So yes, we met with, city council, we met with the mayor's office, we met with real estate agents in the community that knew a lot, obviously already about the community, so they could also point us in the right direction of who we should speak to next. With families and community, and also community members that just kind of approached us. We would make sure we went to events, like community events, and during the summer, to just meet with people and say, hey, we're new to the community and we're in Oak Harbor Public Schools. What can you tell us about the schools? And what do you like? What are some things that we could improve on? And it was really great to just kind of have that casual moment to just be on the ground and meet people, but then also have some structured meetings where we could ask the right questions that we needed to learn about our community and how we can move forward.
That's awesome. And also tease you up for help later on down the road too, because now you've gone out, you've met the community, and it wasn't about, hey, I need something from you. It was really about establishing that relationship and that rapport and that open dialogue. And now in the future, if you say needed to go out for a bond or something, you've already got that relationship established, and you're not just going out to your community in a time of need.
Right, yeah, and we were kind of with the double whammy with that, because we were both new entry planning, and then we knew that we had a bond on the horizon at the same time. And so fortunately, we were in a space where we were able to kind of approach these meetings by saying, hey, we're new and want to learn more about our community. Also, we're thinking about a bond. What did you, think about that, and kind of get more input on it? So it was a little easier for us, I think, to be able to navigate that versus if you just approach those organizations out of nowhere when you want a bond passed or you need some input on it. It doesn't feel quite as genuine. So we were able to really hit the ground running with that and learn more about the bond and other issues and things that we could work on and keep as in our pipeline when we were going to approach it in the future.
That's awesome. And another benefit too from that, which you kind of touched on here, but it definitely is great to repeat this, is through that in-person meeting. We recently had Rick Kaufman on the School PR podcast. And I also met with Dr. Lindsay Whitley at Cumberland County School District last week in North Carolina. And they both reiterated the importance of in-person meetings and how critical that is to establishing rapport and relationships, especially as we come out of the pandemic.
Right.
I know Dr. Whitley shared with me last week they hosted an event around school safety. They just did a bunch of roundtables.
And we did that too.
Did you?
Yes.
Yeah, so I want to hear more about that, because that's probably a really great, it's just a really great way to have the community learn more from district leadership, engage, ask questions, share ideas and thoughts.
Yes.
So that's something you
right.
found
Yeah.
successful as well.
I think another thing that was super successful for us, we did a lot of strategic events. So we did a state of the schools, right? Opening up our schools, having people from the community come and learn about our programs, learn about, some of our challenges. We talked about our budget, all the things that, were on our radar and were important, and we needed our community on board and to learn about it. So they had the tools and messages to go out into the community and spread the important word that we were saying in our state of the schools. But we also had, as a lot of districts are dealing with safety concerns, especially with so many different events happening in the news, every community is kind of on edge and wanting to know, what are district's plans to keep students safe in an emergency? And so we put together a panel of, our district administrators, our principals, we had law enforcement there to really talk about our emergency planning. And a lot of times, when you talk about emergency planning, people go immediately to it, how do you respond to an incident?
Right.
But we really tried to make sure that it was focused on a holistic way of how you approach and prep for emergencies, because it's not just during an emergency, right? Yeah. What are the tools and things that you have in place prior to an emergency, the structures and systems that help us be better prepared when an emergency happens, and how people can be prepped when an emergency happens to get their correct information, right? When an emergency happens, so many times the rumor mill just goes wild. How are you prepping your community to know where to find their accurate information so that they don't go in panic mode when there's a gap in communication?
That's critical. And One of the interesting things about kind of that conversation is around that emergency communication and how you, using these in-person meetings, you're really able to share. You could have done that in a more traditional way. Like you could have done that in an email to families or posted the information to a website, but having that in-person meeting and the dialogue and the back and forth is so critical with your key stakeholders and communicator groups, because then, like you said, they're out there helping to spread the message, which is awesome.
Yes, and it gave them opportunity to ask questions in real time. I think, a lot of times families don't have the opportunity to ask in person and get to the source of information. And so they go to social media or they go to their neighbor or, and they don't get the right information. And so making sure you have the structures in place to have those in-person interactions. But also, as we've learned with the pandemic, there's so many ways that we can engage people virtually as well. So we made sure to live stream it and also record it at the same time so people could, still tune in and engage with the content in real time and get their questions answered right away. And that was really impactful, I think, for them.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we know at the district level, it's so hard to host an event that everyone can attend.
Right. The timing's never right.
Timing's never right. And so to record it and be able to put that back out there for parents and community to engage with is fantastic. So talk to me a couple of other sources. Realtors, awesome.
Yes.
Obviously, they're meeting your family sometimes before you.
Yeah.
Right? Prospective families moving into the area.
Right.
Haven't connected with the district yet. They're just shopping homes. Critical group to network with.
Yes.
They're going to be a really great resource. And also probably, I would imagine in a community like that, maybe local papers, or what are some of the other ways you've kind of reached out to the community there? Talk to me about that.
Right. I think, coming from San Jose, it was a, very media heavy market where there's a lot of traffic and a lot of things happening at the same time. So it was a little harder to get, your word in the local paper there. But something that I learned in a smaller town is that the paper is a trusted source for your community, especially for taxpayers and possibly people that are retired and don't have any sort of direct connection to your school district. And so I think that has been a really pivotal point for me is having that solid connection to the local reporters. Within my first month, I reached out to the reporter and had coffee with her, and I spoke to her about my background and experience. And I think because I came from journalism and she was, right out of college reporter, I think that she really has looked to me for advice a lot of times as a local reporter. And we've been able to kind of build on that relationship together and trust each other and know that I know she's going to come to me with questions before publishing something that's inaccurate. And so building those relationships, and you have the opportunity to do that in a smaller community, whereas if you're in the Bay Area or in LA, it's much harder to get that kind of direct contact with reporters unless you know them on a personal level.
It sure can be. And also keep in mind that not all reporters understand the education beat. Sometimes they're assigned to other beats. Maybe they just get pushed over here for a particular story. So having those relationships established, setting up coffee dates like that is a huge tip. So if you're new to that space of communications or new to a particular community, definitely one of the first things I did as well was reach out to my local PIO at the police department, my local PIO at the fire department, my local newspaper and reporters, and offer, let's get together, let's have lunch, let's have coffee. Money well spent.
Yes, I did that as well with our. We're a very small town, so we didn't really have a lot of communications people, but we did have one in our city office. And our county had, for emergency management. Like I reached out to them as well because they also, have been in a similar role to me, so they kind of know how to operate different situations. And so having that, network and build off of it was really helpful for me starting out as well, and also being a part of WASPRA or your local county office of ed or ESD is another place to really like tap into that resource and get information and kind of learn more about your community or your state you're in.
That's great. And that connection too, I just want to reference how critical that is, the local reporters and things, because they're going to help push your story and your mission, values, and programs, your district uniqueness out to a broader audience than we would otherwise be able to. So we can send emails out to families, parents, and guardians. It's unlikely a lot of people out in the community are visiting our website if they're not a parent or guardian.
Right.
But having that reporter relationship established, getting that positive news out there to other voters out there in the area who vote on things like bonds or different things like that that we need, right? We need everyone in our community to know how great their local neighborhood schools are, because they really are the backbone to any great neighborhood. I mean, like real estate agents, it's like one of the first things they put on the flyer.
For sure.
What school district this house is in, right? It's so important. So that's wonderful.
Yes, and in Oak Harbor, we're a military town, so we have a lot of families that move in and out all the time. And so having a solid relationship with real estate agencies and agents has been really important for us because, if they're not in our system yet, they're really hard for us to get in contact with. And they, like you said, a lot of times real estate agents or even just property managements that, do rentals and things like that are other places to kind of tap in and learn more about how you can get your message out to families and welcome them into your schools prior to them getting there, because that has been really impactful for them.
Yeah, one tip on that you just all this great stuff. One tip on that you kind of touched on it. An example would be in my previous district, in Oceanside Unified School District. My superintendent, Dr. Julie Vitale, she's still there. She's absolutely amazing. I adore her. She's an incredible leader.
Yeah.
She and I went on a little road trip, and we went to all those local condos and apartments and all the new builds. Man, if you see a new build going
HOAs.
up, you go to those HOAs, and we created a little district one pager, and we went into their offices and we said, hey, if you have families coming in, can we just put this in your lobby?
Yeah.
And we did not have not one single person turn us down.
Wow.
Everybody put their flyers out there, so when prospective families came in to buy a home in that new
it's a good selling point for
condominium
them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were so happy to have the information. So, another great solid gold tip here, which is awesome. I should say that we both kind of skipped over. You mentioned you were from California.
Yes.
I'm from California as well. We both were so honored to serve on the CalSPRA board, which is the California Association of Public Relations. Really amazing. Sarah is a rock star. I mean, she just having these conversations with her, you're always going to take away all kinds of little gold nuggets. So this is wonderful. I really appreciate it. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. This has been really fantastic. I think it kind of applies to anyone who might be considering a shift or just new to the profession as well. Do you have any tips or last kind of parting words for someone who might be considering something as crazy as moving to a different state or maybe just moving the neighborhood over?
Right. And I think these tips and tricks are applicable to if you're, just new to school PR, you're coming from another industry, like how you can just, better know your area and your community and your schools, right? I think taking the time to do the research, if you're going for your APR, the RPI process, it really does work. And really just having the research to better understand, and be strategic about, your efforts and what you're doing. And I think that is so helpful when you're first starting out, because it can feel like, fire hose trying to just put out fires all the time and you don't really know where to navigate. But if you take the time to learn about your community and about your families and how you can best support them and communicate with them, you'll be much better off once the school year gets started, especially if you start in the summer like I did. So don't be afraid of change, and lean on people that are in your district that have been there a long time. We make fun of, we have a assistant superintendent in our office named Dwight Lundstrom, and he's our resident historian, and we always feel bad because we're like, sorry Dwight, we have to ask you this question about what has been done before or not, but he's just great, and he loves to be a resource for us. And so tap into those people. It might be a front office assistant that has been there for many years. They know the community and they know your schools, and use them as a resource too, and also your network within an association like the Washington School Public Relations Association, CalSPRA or NSPRA or something like that, to help you and navigate the beginning journey of school PR.
It's so true. And if you don't have a state association, join NSPRA.
Yes.
Attend an NSPRA seminar.
Yes.
NSPRA is going to be in St. Louis here and then Seattle after that next year. Really great way to network and meet people from all over the country. So if you are considering something like moving to a different state, definitely seek out some mentors you can reach out to in that area and learn more about that as well as part of that RPI process. Well, I can't thank you enough for sharing your journey, moving to a whole new location, a whole new community, and what that kind of thought process and plan was and how you were able to successfully navigate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, that's all we got for now. If you like this, be sure to like, share, comment, follow for more. Stay tuned to Peachjar Extra Credit. We're going to be continue to bring you some great content. Participate in the comments. Get in there. We're happy to get in there, answer any questions, join you as well in that space. So stick around, stay tuned. We got lots more. See ya.